Hi guys, nice to see all of you there. Before we start, just a small warning. Watching this talk may cause some uncontrollable urges to refactor your entire code base, so now you warned, and welcome to Vue.js Talks number 13. We're really excited to have you there whenever you are watching live, catching the recording, or just hanging out in the background pretending that this is a part of your daily stand-up. This meetup is probably brought to you by Epicmax, a team of Vue.js developers who really love frontend, open source, and coffee in no particular order. We also creators of Vuestic UI, a fully featured Vue 3 framework, and Vuestic admin and admin dashboard template loved by thousands of developers around the world. Our projects have lots of stars on GitHub, but probably still missing yours. And we are always building, sharing, and supporting to the Vue community however we can. So here, what we have for today's agenda. We have three different beautiful topics from three different speakers. The first one would be Void Zero, the future of JavaScript ecosystem. The second one is the pragmatic approach of AI in frontend. And last but not least, storybook-driven development for Nuxt projects. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the channel and we will answer to them at the end of every speaker. So let's not stop there. Let's move on and go to our first speaker. It's Revanth Kumar Patha. He's also known as a founder of VueVerse, a community dedicated to Vue.js, proficient in modern frameworks and technologies like Vue.js, React, React Native, and core web development tools. Dedicated to continuous learning and innovations, staying updated with the latest trends in the front-end development and applying them to create impactful applications. So nice to see you, nice to meet you, Revanth, and I'm passing the microphone to you.
Thank you. So I hope you guys able to hear me, and let me share my screen. One minute. Hello everyone. I'm Revanth Kumar, working as a senior front-end developer at HCA Healthcare India, and also a founder of VueVerse community, which is completely dedicated to Vue and its ecosystem. So it's really very happy to see you all here, and I'm going to give a talk on Void Zero, that is a future of JavaScript ecosystem. So let me start. So today I'm going to talk about Void Zero, the next generation toolchain for JavaScript. But whatever the thing that is going to talk today, it's completely not yet released yet. It is going to release in future. So that is the reason I call it as future of JavaScript ecosystem. Okay, so that is what the Void Zero is going to bring for us. So in today's, what is the agenda that we're going to talk about is why building a code is important. So why do we need to build it first, and what is Vite, so how it is actually working now, and later why roll down came into existence and what is its impact, what is OXE. OXE is a compiler, so what is the role of it, and later what is Void Zero and its vision and mission, that means its motivation. So this is the whole agenda that I'm going to cover in today's session. So let me start with the simple question. Do we need to build our code like we usually write in any of the JavaScript framework like Vue, React, or Angular? We also do a command called npm run build. So what actually happens when you write npm run build? What actually happens? So why do we need to build that code? So the simple answer for that is whatever the framework that we are working on, whether it may be React, Angular, or Vue, we need to build that code, because building in the sense it is preparing our code for production. So that means we are making our code to production ready. So throughout this process, many phases our code will undergoes. Like for example, we usually write our code in TSX, JSX. So the whole code needs to be transpiled, means transformed to JavaScript, so that our browser can understand easily, right? So transpiling, bundling, minification, tree shaking. So these are all the different phases it undergoes. So this is why our building the code is very important. So that is the reason we will write npm run build. So whenever you write npm run build, so in like in your package.json also you'll be able to see in the scripts where whenever you write npm run build, our wheat will come into place. Okay, so our wheat will come into place, and uh, our roll up, so it is a bundler, roll up is a bundler, which will be invoked. So later all these phases like transpiling, bundling, minification will later happens. So that is the reason how like npm run build works. But actually what is a bundler is, we usually write code in many different languages, right? So it may be in React, Angular or Vue. These are the frameworks. But again, when I'm talking about like in this tsx also, we write code in sfc, single file components, and also we will be importing some JSONs, and we also deal with some plugins, modules, and at present we are completely moving to module based architecture. So how all these terms our browser understand, have you ever thought about it? Like we always go and tend to develop in a modern architecture, right? So in modern architecture we comes to see like module based sfcs, micro frontends, module federation. These are all the different things we will be using while writing the code. But our browser can directly understand all those things? No. So that is the reason a bundler comes into picture. So bundler is a tool which takes multiple pieces of our code, and it will convert all the code to JavaScript, CSS and HTML. Only these three files. Okay. It's really very interesting, right? So converting all our big code database or code base to these three files into smaller chunks. Okay, smaller chunks. So that is what the bundler does. So it will optimize our files where our browsers, web browsers can easily understand, and our application can load very efficiently. So this is where bundler comes into place. And whenever you run npm run build, the the optimized file will be generated in dist folder. You might have already observed it. And when you open the dist folder, you'll be able to see only .js, .css and .html files. So whether now we can say our code is completely optimized and it is ready for production, right? So for now, it's all cool. So how it is working, what is the use of it, we know. But under the hood, what is actually helping it to do all these things, right? So we are talking about like it is converting, transpiling, tree shaking, all the things are done. But how, what is the tool or something which is helping to our bundler? So we have namely we have these three bundlers at present. So like for example, webpack, you might have all about, heard about webpack, es build, roll up. So these are all the like well known bundlers that we are known, like for example that they are like well known, we are like using it in our daily day to day life. So like for example, bundlers like webpack, rollup will combine these modules, these files into our browser understandable files like .js, .css and .html, where our browsers can load them efficiently. So this is how the JavaScript bundlers work. Okay, so they'll segregate, they'll sort, and later, fine. But we already have webpack, but we again slowly started moving to wheat. Why? So Webpack is also known as very good bundler. We also have many good things, very good pros on Webpack. But still, people tend to use uh, Vite now at present in this modern architecture at present when compared to Webpack. So the only answer for this is we all know Webpack introduced very late in 2010, 11, 12 at that times, and it could also bundle everything, like whether you have written code in any of the language, it could bundle it. Okay, but the only thing, only problems that we faced in Webpack is it will bundle entire application during our development phase also. Like for example, if you change one file, still the whole app will bundle to get the output. So this is where it is a bit lagged in the performance. And not only that, it is written in JavaScript. Okay, so where it is single threaded, and also it is its performance is very low compared to Rust based bundlers. Okay, so as it is a single threaded and it involves multiple stages, like for example when you run npm run build or something, it it takes multiple stages, right? So like for example, for parsing, linting, pre-shaking, minifying, for all these things it takes JavaScript. So that is the reason as our code grows, like for example, large projects, it used to take much time to bundle our code base. It may be sometimes for some minutes and hours also for large code bases. So this is where developers got a bit frustration and on demand. So demand increased for something simpler and faster. So that is the reason they came, like at that time wheat came into role, wheat came into play. So here wheat is completely built, it uses two main tools. Like for example, in development phase wheat uses at present esbuild, and in production phase it uses rollup. So these are the two bundlers how our wheat works. Okay, so esbuild is a bundler. ESBuild is a bundler where it will not give the first priority to bundling the code. It will directly give our native ESM modules, like native ES modules. So what is this native ES modules is, instead of bundling the whole code when you type, so it will give our code with imports to our browser only. Okay, so in browser what happens, it, in as we are running the code, so it will fetch the code with the help of https call. Like for example, if you try to import something, in the .vue file or .ts or .js file, our ESBuild will not resolve it. Instead, it will give the whole file, whole code to browser itself, and browser will resolve it. So, and not only that, ESBuild is written in Go. Okay, like for example, I'll show here. So, as I said, Vite is built on two powerful tools. So that is Rollup and ESBuild. These may be confusing terms for all of us, so this because some of us may hearing for this first time. So rollup is a bundler and esbuild is also a bundler. So esbuild is fast JavaScript bundler which is written in Go. Okay, so Go is, again, it's not a single threaded, which supports parallelism, right? So it completely takes the development phase. Okay, so it completely takes the development phase, and whenever the user types something, and or whenever the user tries to change something, our HMR comes to place. HMR means hot module replacement. So if you want to try or change only one piece of code, our ES build will change or optimize only that one piece of code instead of bundling the whole app again. Interesting, right? So instead of bundling the whole app or whole file, it will change only that piece of code in the memory. Okay, so this is where HMR will comes to play, and HMR is very fast here. Okay, so it need not to even reload our app. automatically when you click some changes or when you save it, automatically our changes will get updated in our browser. We usually see, like whenever we are coding, we usually see that happening, right? So this is what ESBuild does. And when it comes to rollup, rollup is again a bundler which is written in JavaScript only. Okay, so as Webpack, rollup is also written in JavaScript, but it will focus on optimized bundles. It also undergoes many phases like code splitting, tree shaking, and minifying. All these phases rollup will also undergo. And one more interesting thing, whenever you change something in our code, like in our development day to day, at the time ESBuild will work. And whenever you write npm run build, at the time rollup will comes to play. Okay, rollup will gets invoked, and later this will undergo all the phases. Okay, so after all the phases only we'll be getting the bundled file in dist folder. So this is how at present Vite is working. So Vite is working using these two powerful tools. But still Ivan Yu, who is a creator of Vue, and his team face some challenges. Okay, so they still think there are some technical difficulties. Okay, so at present, even when you are trying to deal with rollup, it parses our code multiple times. Like for example, whenever you click or whenever you write or whenever you are bundling the code, it undergoes many phases as I'm discussing. In each and every phase, our code needs to be parsed, and an abstract syntax tree will be generated. For every phase it needs to be parsed, and again a new ast tree will be formed. So these things, like maybe in future it may be lead to a performance issues. So to optimize this also, they are introducing another bundler called roll down. Okay, so roll down. And one more thing, not only that thing, so roll up parses code multiple times as I said. And again, webpack and roll up were written in JavaScript. When compared to modern technologies like Rust or Go, JavaScript is performance is a bit slower when compared to these things. So that is the reason they are working on the new bundler which is called roll down. So roll down is a Rust based bundler which will parse our whole entire code only for one time. Okay, it will parse our code only once, and you can use the same parsed code in each and every phase. Interesting, right? So this is the problem where we have faced using the JavaScript bundlers, and now we completely avoided this. And by this, we will be improving the performance also, and we'll also avoid duplicate bundlers, duplication of parsing, right? So this is the Rust based bundler, and you can see the speed of Rust and roll up compatible, and it is designed for Vite. Okay, and one more thing, so Rust based bundler in the sense like ESBuild, roll down is also built in Rust, and it is faster when compared to JavaScript bundlers like rollup. Okay, and not only that, at present Vite is working by using two powerful tools, right? One is ESBuild and another is rollup. And now the team decided to omit those two different tools, and they're completely wanted to make unified one tool, and that is roll down. Okay, so now roll down aims to unify both the tasks. Like for example, now they will not use ESBuild anymore, and they are completely moving to only one build tool, and that is only one bundler, that is roll down. So roll down will work both in development phase and production phase. Okay, so that is the thing. But here it's not ended. Okay, so still our team not only satisfied here, So they also want to make a compiler also. Okay, so our Vue.js team is also working on making a compiler, and that is called OXC, oxidized compiler. It is also a Rust based compiler. So this is where our code will be patched, right? So like for example, whenever you write or whenever a code will compile, there only many phases will apply. Like for example, ESLint, I mean linting, formatting, parsing, and so in all these phases, it will parse our code in like repeated times. So like for linting, it will parse our code. For formatting, it will parse our code. For minifying, it will parse our code. So in all these phases also, our OXC made our work easier. Okay, so it will provide parser only for one time, and you can use it everywhere wherever you want. Okay, so it will offer tools like at present, in recent times, OXC released a tool called OXLint. When compared to ESLint, OXLint is very much faster because ESLint is written in JavaScript and OXLint is written in Rust. Okay, so this is where our OXC's aim is: performance, modularity, and customization. An interesting thing in OXC, in front end also we got micro front ends. Okay, so like for example, if you are dealing with a large code base, so we can divide our code into modules where our code can be worked as micro front ends, right? And in backend also we have microservices for every module, microservices. Why not in compiler then, right? So in OXC also, our team is working in such a way that it will give us tools, different tools for parsing, for linting, for resolver, for transformer. They are creating reusable components. Okay, so these are like reusable components. If your code needs parser, you can only take parser from them. If your code needs linter, you can take OXLint from them. If your code needs resolver, you can take resolver from them. So in that way, our OXC is building in a modular way. Okay, so as developer can pick and choose specific modules, like without relying on monolithic tools, like monolithic approaches or monolithic tools, we can customize accordingly. Okay, so this is how OX is aiming for. But all these things are happening under the vision of Void Zero. Void Zero is redefining the tool chain for JavaScript. So this is where the Void Zero will bring us a solution for all the developer problems. So our Vue team thought the problem is not in the bundlers that we are there, but under the hood the problem is with JavaScript. Okay, so that is the reason they are omitting the whole rollup or webpack, and they completely move to Rust language, so where it provides parallelism also, and it omits single threaded and comes to parallelism, where our code will work with very super performance with very less inefficiencies. Okay, so this is what the mission and vision of Void Zero is. So Void Zero mission is to build the whole tools from the start to end. Okay, so we will be starting with Vite. The project will be created, and the whole unit testing with the help of Vtest. Bundling will be done with the help of roll down, and OXC with it is a compiler. Okay, so by all these things, a fully developed project will be ready at the end, right? So I wanted to show you their vision also. So here, so this is what the wheat is, right? So as I said, it will be converting all our different applications to normal JS, CSS, and HTML files. This is how it will make our whole code base into smaller chunks. Okay, and later this is what the roll down is. So we have for everything there is a website, so you can also refer later. And it is completely made in Rust, which is also roll up compatible and ESBuild compatible also. Okay. And later, this is where we have oxidized compiler. As I said, they are completely making it into modules, like modular based compiler it is. So that is where at present we have parser, linter, resolver and transformer are ready. Okay. And now they are also building minifier formatter and bundler, so they are on the progress for it. At present, we have also released linter, that is called oxlint, okay, which is already released. Whenever you create any Vue project, we will get a notification or a thing that you also want to try oxlint on ESLint or not. So at this stage, oxlint can be used completely in replacing of ESLint. Okay, to small and medium projects. And later, this is what the vision of Void Zero is. So Void Zero's vision is next generation tooling for all the frameworks. So this is what the Vite is. Later with Vtest and roll down, and with OXE, their mission is to build a complete bundled code base for us. Okay, so this is what the vision is. And so Void Zero is a thing where all these are partners with that, and all the companies are at present using this Void Zero also. Okay, so this is what all the thing is about. What is Void Zero and what are all the things? How the like all the JavaScript is going to be in the future. Okay, so till now, any questions you can ask me. I know this is a very new thing, new terminologies for all of us. Even I thought this is a very new terminology when I learned for the first time. Yes. Uh, Let me see the questions first.
We don't have any questions in the chat, and I just reminding you guys that if you have something, please feel free and drop them to the chat. We will read it after each speaker, and we will ask him
Yes.
about that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Yes, I have a question specifically regarding roll down.
Okay.
There is a quite known issue of rollup, of creating like millions of small chunks. So the problem with rollup is not by creating small chunks, but actually was creating big chunks. And one of the problems of this is that rollup is not able to bundle CSS together with JavaScript. So for every single component, you will get two files. Thus, roll down fixes this issue. Is it able to bundle CSS and JavaScript together in one file for a single component?
Yes, so roll down can bundle now JavaScript and CSS together, and you can also like refer to the blogs which they have released. So what they say is, at present we can also bundle the whole JavaScript and CSS it together, and not only that, the chunks will also will be reduced. We can also do it with the help of like the testing tool that we have, like in the website only they have given, and which is less than some milliseconds when compared to rollup. So as it is Rust based bundler, and parallelism is also supports here. So yes, it
Okay,
it
thanks.
answers that problem. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other
Okay.
questions?
I'm just really glad that we have every day we have something new that making our work more comfortable and faster. So
Yeah.
I don't see any more questions in the chat and no raised hands. So
Thank you. And before I earn, so you can also catch me at like you can also contact me in LinkedIn. And please do join VueVerse. VueVerse is a community which completely non-commercial and also completely like dedicated to Vue. Okay, Vue its ecosystem for all the things, all these latest things and features and frameworks that are going to be released. You will also come to know in this viewers community. So it is growing. We also organize tech meetups here in Hyderabad, tech meetups, workshops with colleges. So yeah, it's all going good at present. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Revanth. That was really good, detailed information. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think we can move on to our next speaker now. The next one is Juan Andrés Núñez Charro. Sorry if I pronounce it somehow wrong.
Don't worry.
Juan is a senior front-end engineer specialized in Vue.js. He's also a professional teacher and speaker, and he blends technical mastery with human development to help developers thrive in the AI era. Send it yours. Go on.
Okay, thanks a lot. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Yeah, right?
Yep, all good.
Okay, so title is a bit boring, I understand, but the content of the talk that I believe is the important part is 100% based on pure experience, right? So basically, this is a realistic and pragmatic approach to take advantage of all this AI craziness that is happening right now. So, well, as you said, my name is Juan Andrés Núñez. I'm a senior front-end engineer working currently at Docplanner. But let's go to the content. So, I divided my talk in 4 key parts. The 3 first ones are super important, but these are the most boring, sort of speak, right? And the last one will be live. So first, I will set the ground to basic understanding of what's happening. And I believe that this is evidence-based, right? Maybe you don't think so, but let's see in the questions. What you shouldn't do, and I can assure you that I can tell you, don't do this because I tried everything and I messed up a lot, right? So there are some don'ts do that are important. Of course, things that I believe you should do because it worked for me and by other person, other colleagues. And also how specifically I use AI in my day-to-day work. And this is the live part. It's like a control experiment because we don't have much time, but it's live nonetheless. So let's go with the first part, right? The first part is understanding, and I believe that we need a mental shift is necessary to cut to the noise because there are a lot of noise. Something as important as AI, I believe that it's important also to just learn to focus, right? So the first thing I believe is necessary to understand is that maybe, and I'm talking about my own experience and people that I mentor and I work in my day-to-day, right? So as you will see my story at the end with my workflow, etc. But this is important, I believe. Maybe you should change or challenge your attitude. I know a lot of people that have some fear about AI and things that maybe the AI will replace them. They are going to be fired because AI. And in my experience, again, I believe that AI is not the problem. It's probably something deeper because these same people probably were also fearing when there is an economic recession or crisis, etc. Right? So maybe there are people that are disconnected from their own craft and really every time there is something big happening, some big change, again, the pattern starts, no? Again, right? So with something so big as AI, I believe that you shouldn't fear this change because it won't replace you if you adapt. And as a human species, I believe that we have a pretty clear grasp about evolution, right? So if you try to resist and don't adapt, you will die, basically. Not physically in this case, but you will be casted away. And this is happening right now, as we speak, right? As I speak. So resisting, again, is the fastest way to make yourself obsolete. So it doesn't make any sense. And I will elaborate further about this resist part in a moment. But challenge or change your attitude. Second, for me, this is not a problem. It's just the opposite, right? It's a challenge, and every challenge has possible problem, but also an equally important opportunity. And for me, in my understanding, in my experience, and from what I can see, because I work in a super big company, we have hundreds of developers, and I have this advantage, right? I see every day, every time, how AI affects our professional workflow. So for me, again, this is a massive competitive opportunity. This is unprecedented. It's groundbreaking, because it's like, as I wrote here, the reset button has been pressed. So everyone is more or less, not 100%, but more or less starting fresh, right? So this is a very nice opportunity, the opportunity of a lifetime, I would say, right? Maybe you think I'm hyped, maybe I am, but I really believe that this is true, right? So if you were a bit young when internet came to mainstream, maybe you were a child, right? So at that time, you couldn't operate on this. But now, as an adult, you can. And I believe that this is a very big opportunity, right? So the third point is that it's not enough. Well, maybe you are not resisting. Maybe you are consuming some tutorial once in a while, and you have a basic, very basic understanding about AI. It's not enough. I'm thinking about knowledge profession, programming, professional programming, of course. That is my domain. But passive acceptance is not enough. You should go all in. You, in my opinion, again, you should try to get the most of the situation. Or I believe you are already out. Maybe not so quick as a person that resists and negates, but probably slowly, little by little, you will start lose the grasp because things are changing faster than ever, right? So we are lucky, again, my opinion, to live in this paradigm shift. It's just, as I said, our internet going mainstream moment. And we are not talking about future. We're talking about the present. So this is not a forecast. This is happening right now. Right? So for me, it's necessary to just confront reality, right? And also, don't do. Let's start with 3 or 4 things that you shouldn't do. And again, I did all of this. That's why I believe I have the basic competency and experience to just, of course, part of the game is that you make your own mistakes, right? But try to don't make mine, make yours at least, right? Because you can lose a lot of time, and I lose, yeah, and I still do it, right? But let's see. First of all is be aware of fear of missing out, right? Because everyone is talking about AI. And there are useful information, but not everyone that talks about AI knows what he or she is talking about, right? So you should understand, and again, we will elaborate about this specific point in a moment. Maybe it's the next slide or the next one. But there is again, when you start playing with AI, if you go all in, what will happen is that you will go for a circle. It's like when you have a very important influencer, or you have an external influence or a trend in a JavaScript framework, for instance, and now this thing is the way to go, and everyone changes their workflow and starts hammering that thing night and day, everything changes, etc. But this is not sustainable, right? This is the concept of homeostasis. You cannot change an ecosystem, like this. So there will be some regression, and you will do the full circle. You will start maybe not in a square one, maybe in a square 2 with the most important parts that you learn. And this is, I believe, part of the game, right? But at least knowing that this is happening, I believe this is also necessary, right? So the tool isn't the magic. It's just a tool. It's true that something sometimes acts like it is magic, but it's not. It's just a tool. So basic understanding about the basic terminology is necessary, just to demystify, right? And again, you don't need to be everywhere. You don't need to learn every model, every piece of information. It's not necessary. Don't even try, because it's futile. I tried, of course. But I suggest to you that you shouldn't even try to do it. You should find something that sticks to your personal workflow. And again, we will talk about workflows in a moment. But just be aware that there is a lot of information changing super quick, a lot of noise, as I said in the beginning. And in the end, fear of missing out is fear, nonetheless, right? It's a very powerful emotion. So it can drive you crazy. It can make you behave in a non-logical way, right? So be aware of this. And with AI, is above all, there's a lot of these emotions. Now, this is completely related with the last slide. And I suggest that you should ignore gurus. Like if you, for instance, you go to LinkedIn and you see, or YouTube or any other social platform or social gathering, you will see people that says that where AI is going in 2026 or 2027. You should understand that no one knows where AI is going. No one. And if anyone says otherwise, probably is lying or believes his own lies. That is also a possibility, right? So for me, this is comforting because you shouldn't be constantly everywhere trying to learn and practice everything. No one really knows where this will end. Really, that's the truth. And most of what you will see is content marketing, right? So it's also very comforting because I know I've been an influencer and content marketing for years, not anymore. So I know that you have to fight for attention and you won't fight. Well, there are people that fight with quality and depth, but most of the time is with clickbait, with powerful emotions that tells you that you are missing something, that you are not up to a test, right? And again, what does this have to do with AI? A lot, because what I want is for you to start implementing a real workflow, but first you have to remove all these things that affects us, right? And again, if someone says you that you have, or he has a method or some kind of binary rule that do this and don't do that, talking about AI, this is a nonsensical. So I suggest you to just run in the opposite direction. And just to remember, we are dealing with complex and powerful human emotions. Everything is changing. Our work as a professional developers has changed. There have been people being laid off in my company. There are people have been laid off, not because of AI, but everyone suspects, right? AI is behind. And more or less, everyone has some kind of fear, right? And again, this is very powerful and can drive you crazy, right? So this is maybe some kind of polemic, right? Because I believe that professional programming is still hard and not everyone can do it. And we have our work and our opportunities because of that. And yeah, AI doesn't change that and doesn't seem to do it in the near future. I don't know, maybe it does, but at this point, at this moment, AI doesn't change that. And what happens with vibe coding that is super attractive, right, when you think about it, because it's like a whole sense of achievement. It feels like progress, but it's costly. It's like you have the start and you have the result artifact, but you have been stripped of all the process, all the decisions, all the architectural. So you are like an abstraction. I don't know who is playing with who, with the machine with the human or the human with the machine. And this, again, it's like playing Lotto. You were the code, you sound smart, but you are embarrassing yourself. And this is regarding to this specific vibe coding. And for me, it's fine for a non-professional or for a toy project, like an amusement thing, right? But it's not professional. The problem is trying to compare vibe coding with professional development. And this is also happening. This is not a meme or something that is made up. There are a new kind of role that is focused on fixing all the vibe coding messed up things that are happening, right? So beware of vibe coding. You can do it, of course, if you want, but never lose the reality, right? The programming is still hard and AI doesn't change that. Again, if you suck as a programmer, AI doesn't change that. You still suck. That's what I'm trying to say. And last thing, yeah, trust but verify. Yeah. And I see this all the time. And in the beginning, and I will elaborate when I disclose my workflow, you will see that one of the pieces of my workflow is specifically because of this. right? Because there is a temptation of relying and over-relying in the model because things are happening super quick. It's, again, like vibe coding, right? You are removing yourself. And this is the easiest way to self-sabotage. And I'm talking about 100% experience. As a blind delegation, you are a perfect candidate for replacement. And you should at least be aware of that, right? If you never verify, you are not a professional, you're stupid. This is my opinion. And again, I've been stupid in the past because I never tried to put something in production, right? But I try to cut corners, and this is maybe not the wisest path, right? So again, trust but verify. So let's go with the last part. These are general recommendations. And when you see my workflow, you will understand everything, right? Okay, I'm reading. Can I read a question now, or should I wait to the end?
As we already stopped, I mean, you can do what you prefer. We can postpone it or read it now.
Yeah, I will engage right now. Juan, you mentioned that no one knows the future of AI, but do you have your own personal predictions you could share? I don't have personal predictions. I believe that the only thing, based on my experience, if it goes this trend and this path, is that, well, super quick. With internet, they commoditize the access to knowledge, right? Everyone can access knowledge. Knowledge is not the problem anymore. And with AI, the execution has been commoditized or democratized. I don't know how to say this specifically in English, but the barrier has been lowered or directly eliminated. So what is the last human fortress, so to speak? And I believe it's creativity, because there is something important. AI cannot create something new per se. It has been trained with incredibly big data sets, some of them real and some of them synthetic. But to my understanding, at least, doesn't have the ability to create something purely new. This is a human ability. So I don't know if with future, this also can be replaced, but I find this hard to believe, right? So to finish, maybe you don't like some technical concepts and there is an obstacle for you to flow and to create and to iterate and to do something with the knowledge. With AI, you can sort of focus on what you really enjoy and delegate and control, of course, what you don't enjoy. So it's an augmentation process, like enhances your workflow, not substitutes you. But to try to answer and not to go in a tangent, I believe that creativity is the thing. Thanks. John, yeah, let's go. John, please. There's someone with hands raised. If someone wants to ask, do it now, please.
I think we
okay.
freezing some.
I need to do some rates. 1 second. Yeah, maybe now you can.
There we go. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So my question is, you said earlier on something along the lines of, you're going to have to conform or adapt a little bit into this changing environment or you will be left in the dust. What is your personal opinion on the impact it will have on society as a large portion of our population becomes more unemployable?
This is very, very hard for me to answer because as a human being, I empathize with people, right? That probably are going to lose their job, right? Yeah, absolutely. But as a pragmatic way, I believe that, well, two things based on my experience. And if it sounds rough, I'm super sorry. Okay, it can happen to me, right? So, but I believe that most people, not most people, but there are some people that repeat, for instance, repeat the same one first or second year 10 times, right? So there is not a clear evolution, right? So, and again, I don't know if this is good or bad, probably neither of them, right? But there is a pattern. So you become more dependent on your past knowledge. You are not so updated in latest technologies because you don't need it, right? Because the specifics of your work doesn't require that. But when you lose your grasp with your craft, again, and maybe you don't find I don't know, you don't find the juice of life in your work. It's your family, it's what your work habilitates you to do, and that's amazing, right? But this kind of people, sadly, when there is a super big shift that no one could predict, they will find hard to adapt that a person that for whatever reason, and it's not a better person, not a better professional, it's a different kind of person, a person that for whatever reason, again, tries to get more or less updated, try new things, combine different skills. So for instance, I got a sample of anything, but in my experience, I'm a programmer, but also I like to write. I also like to create podcasts. So I'm also a teacher. So, and I'm also going all in AI. So I can be replaced, of course, but it's a slightly difficult replacement because it's more diverse profile, right? So people that went into a job and it's more like 10 or 15 years and more or less is doing the same. When AI comes around, yeah, probably this person is going to be, I don't know if replace it, but it's going to be with fear constantly, right? And again, this person to now get up to speed is like you can do it, of course, but it's like a habit that you don't have, right? So it's not unfair. It's just the way it works, I believe. So
Thank you for your
I don't
answer.
know if this is an answer, but did I answer your question?
Yes, that answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let's continue. Do things. Okay, let's say this is what works for me. And again, as I'm writing a lot about this, I have some comments and also in my work. This is like a common approach that is at this point, this moment in time, working, right? So you plan, AI executes. We don't have time, fuck. You plan, AI execute always. So start with intent. Everything begins with your thinking, not the models. And this is super easy to miss, right? Because the models are built to be constantly, I don't know, to be helping as fast as they can the user, even inventing or hallucinating things, right? So it's easy to miss this part. Start with intent, but everything begins with your thinking, not the models. So AI can write the first draft, and this is an amazing productivity boost from composables to unit testing to whatever thing. And as we'll see in the live part, but you should check everything as we saw earlier, right? That trust but verify. So no plan, no ownership. So if you don't have a way of working, AI won't create one for you. You will suck again with AI. That this is super dangerous because it's like giving a razor blade to a monkey. And seriously, this is my personal opinion. So no plan, no ownership. If you let the model blindly decide, you deserve the mess that follows. And again, I did all of this, right? Not 100%, but just to push. And you have the false sense that in a weekend I'm building an application. No, it's not. It has some flaws. There are some surfaces that you don't know. And this keeps piling, right? So this is important. Also, augment your workflow. Don't replace yourself. Super easy to miss. When I talk about my workflow, I will explain what I mean with artificial resistance. But if AI is too embedded, just stop thinking. again, and this is stupid, right? But you should keep programming. Maybe you are more like an architect, again, but you have to have some kind of ownership in the final result and in the process. You have to be there. So you might work differently. No, you are working differently, that's for sure. But you still write code, you still take the decisions, etc. And also, this is a link, by the way, a paper. Well, they talk about, well, it's here, super quick. This is your rain on ChatGPT. It's not a very big experiment, but if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So if you rely constantly on AI, you will atrophy some skills with time. This is perfectly normal. It's happening with other realms of human life. This is the same. So there are always some trade-offs. That's what I'm meaning with don't replace yourself. You're augmenting or enhancing, not replacing yourself. And it's super easy to miss this. 2 of 3, I believe. Scratch your own needs. Again, start from a real need, solve your own problem. Otherwise, with all the noise, you won't stick long enough. And learn by doing, that's what I'm doing right now, learning by doing, build something, write something, break it, I don't know, share the process, specifically what breaks, right? This is the most interesting part, what I learn, building this thing and breaking this other part, etc. This is my own strategy, and it's working at this point. So, also, this is the most interesting part, not interesting, but the live part, right? Because we have been challenging the assumptions that we have about AI, what you shouldn't do based on my own experience, what you should do, what I believe, and I know for a fact it works for me and for the people I know. And this is how I specifically use AI, right? So, first of all, my journey, super quick. I was the biggest skeptical about this AI thing. I can assure you, I didn't want to touch that thing but in the end, I was resistant, right? It wasn't a trend, it wasn't a fate, it was reality. So now I'm in a more or less career shift. I'm not only using AI for my work, but I'm creating some products and features and in my day-to-day work, official job, and in my personal projects, where AI is the center, right? So it's completely opposite, to be honest. And what I did a fair chance, 3 months focusing all in AI. All in mean 1 to 2 hours a day. So I didn't have, but it's 1 hour a day, even less. It's not question of time. It's your attitude, right? And write a lot. If you want to write record a podcast, record some video, I don't know, share what you are learning. It's the best way of internalizing what you have learned, share a lot. I'm also fixing, of course, this is a super arrogant for my part saying that I'm fixing anything. I'm trying to fix the way of EdTech is working. And I believe that the generative AI, now it's possible. I know for a fact, I have some proof of concept that I want to share, but this is scratching my own itch because I'm a professional teacher also. So this for me is important. Any other problem, I don't care. This problem is mine. So I'm using what I'm learning to fixing or applying in this thing. So this is my journey, right? So my tool set, super simple. I use Cursor as a code editor. I use Claude Code as a AI assistant. And I use Warp as a terminal. All of them have free tier, but if you can invest in them, I suggest you to do it, right? So, well, for its auto-completion, because it's ubiquitous, it's not tied to, remember the resistant, the artificial resistant? This is not completely tied to your IDE or your code editor. And this mental space is necessary. And also because of its augmentation. But you will find that I was using Visual Studio Code before. So if I cannot access Cursor, I don't care. Everything that I learned from Visual Studio Code, I'm using it here, and I can come back. Again, Cloud Code is a CLI. There is Codex, there are Warp CLI, or I can go to ChatGPT. So it's just an implementation of the moment. I didn't change nothing 100%. And the same with the terminal. I can open a terminal, the system terminal. I don't know, and this also works. It will be slower, and I will miss work, of course, but I didn't change anything, right? I didn't do a 180 on this, so I can come back if needed. So you can change this with your own, and this is the same. Remember, the tool is not important. I'm over time, I'm sorry. So my workflow is comprised of 5 phases. The first is explore. So like gather, right? Gather information in an active way. So let me show you. I created a basic Vue project. It has basically nothing. So as you can see here, this is a basic scaffolding of a Vue project. So what I should do, I will try to do is as fast as I can, is just gather context. How can you do it? This is a specific of Cloud Code, but you can ask the same with every model. Doesn't matter, really. So I will start Cloud. And as you can see, even if I can connect Cloud with my code editor, I prefer to have it in a separate tool, because otherwise I will start replacing myself. I will start giving more and more and more and more, I don't know, space to the model, and I will start taking a secondary position, right? He will be the protagonist, and I will be, I don't know, the extra. And this in the past didn't work well. So I do all my decisions, all my investigations here, but I write the code, or when I go to my editor, I'm in my editor. Maybe this is not for you, because I'm in Cursor and I also have the agent, right? But I don't use it. I prefer this basic mental space. So again, what I will do, remember, we are exploring. So I will set Claude A, of course. I will say init. But if you are using a tool that doesn't have this init, you can, whatever, please scan the code base and gather the important parts in a document, in a markdown document. And that's specifically what init does. It will scan the code base. It will be a very simple document because, again, it's a bare bones Vue project. So it will take probably 1 to 2 minutes. As you can see, it's scanning everything. And will compile all their findings in a document. And it's your responsibility to have this document updated, because the last phase will require you to do it. Has some benefits.
Sorry, Juan, didn't want to interrupt, but if you're sharing something, we still see how I use AI stuff on the screen.
Ah, sorry. Understand. It's presenting. So why? So you're not seeing my, that's amazing. I don't know why. Let me, sorry.
So probably something that AI don't want you to share.
I will stop sharing and start sharing again. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, too much talking about AI. And okay, let me try again. I cannot share my screen. I have this. The button is grayed out.
Yeah, I will try.
I don't know. That's okay. That's okay. I can do it now. Sorry. So you now can see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
With the terminal?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, because I was sharing my code editor. Okay. Well, what I did with this command is execute an init command. This will tell the model, in this case it's Cloud Code, and if your tool doesn't have this command, you can just ask. It doesn't have to be specific to Cloud Code. But Cloud will scan the code base and compile their findings in a document. And it's your responsibility to keep this document updated like a source of truth, like a diary, right? And you will see that the document will be extremely easy because it's a bare bones project, but this is a starting point, okay? So as you can see, it's creating Cloud ND with essential information. And I will show you, and yeah, here it is. So if I go to my code editor, again, this cursor, and I was saying that I have Claude. It's ubiquitous because I can run it in, if I go to NeoBeam, I can still run Claude code. Doesn't matter the tool or the code editor or the IDE I'm using, right? That's why. So if we open Claude MD, this is what the model has found, right? This is super basic because the project is basic. But this is the first step of my workflow. And let me go super quick because I'm super sorry for the next speaker. Super, super sorry. But this is gather, right? So I'm gathering information. Every time I use a new project, I gather some information. When I do some changes, I ask Claude, hey, please add these changes to the document, or maybe create a new one, because this document is sent with every request, for, sort of speak to Claude. So if it grows a lot, we have a content window token. So, but this is a very nice and very rewarding practice to keep this thing always updated. So the next part is plan. So now that we have the basic knowledge of the code base, let's do something. And what I want to do is this. Let me copy the prompt because I have it here also, just to save some time. What I have is this. I have this mockup. Very easy. With forms, I despise forms, absolutely. So if this thing can create the first draft, perfect. I can refactor and finish it, but it will speed up my workflow a lot. So I have this piece of design. Can be a mockup, can be whatever you can see, the Figma, etc. So I'm going to ask Claude for create this using what we have in our project. So how can I do it? Again, I'm going to paste the prompt, as you can see, is based on the best practice and specific, lays the ground, uses examples of the actual code base, etc. And also, since we have the image, I'm going to copy and paste, or simply let me get some space, drag and drop, and then ask, hey, please craft this. And remember, we are in the second phase. We are planning right now. And again, I can, as you can see, I activated the accept this on, but I can also activate plan mode on. And if your tool and your assistant doesn't have this, doesn't matter. You can ask, hey, just plan. Don't write any code. Don't create any artifact. And it will do the same. But in this plan mode, what Claude will do is take a look at the code base, at the Claude MD, take a look at the image, take a look at the prompt, and come with a plan. And I believe that since I activated the mode, the plan mode later, he has created directly the piece. It doesn't matter, right? But created the piece is a component, so we can go. We can open the component that should be here. And it is here, but the thing is, yeah, it seems okay to me, but we need to see it, right? So, Cloud, I need to see it live, add it to a route. And again, we all know how to add routes to be router. It will take maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes to you, but for the model is, I don't know, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. Well, I hope, right? But as you can see, this is something that you can delegate because you know how to do it, right? So let's see which route the model decides. Maybe add dash practice. I don't know. Yes, add dash practice. So you can go here and add practice. And here it is. And if we open the mockup, is yeah. Well, you cannot push it like it is, but it's a nice starting point that you can refactor and iterate, etc. And this probably has saved maybe 1 hour of work, maybe 1 hour and a half. I don't know, but 1 hour is 1 hour, right? And again, I can do this by my own hands if I want. So this is the second phase, right? So the third phase is execute. Sorry, the third phase is what we saw, the execution, right? When I click enter with the prompt, we moved from the plan to the execution. And you will see that you will move back and forth with the planning and execution because the first draft sucks generally. So you will execute and go back to the drawing board. Hey, then change this and this. And again, execute and plan. But let's suppose that this is perfect execution. We need to preserve now. So what I should do is more or less I use Git. I use an LLM like a Git ORM. Because of course, everyone here knows how to write a commit, but I can say, hey, Cloud, create a commit using conventional commits. And use conventional commits, maybe something to go to the Cloud MD. So let's do it here. And you will see that basically we'll add everything to the staging area and we'll create a craft a message, super verbose. So again, in Cloud MD, you can see, and he tends to put his sponsor of message, but let's roll. Let's roll with it and do it. So that's all. What I should do now is, for instance, instruct that always, for instance, here, don't use your auto promo message in Edge commit. And this, the project memory, you haven't updated this like a diary, right? Like a compendium of documentation. And if you do this, probably I should do the same with conventional commit. With every architectural decision, with every pattern that I want to use in the project, you should update this source of truth. Why? Because the last part is clean. There is something called context drift, and this is like a human interactions, right? The more you talk about something, the bigger the scope, you lose the grasp with the original objective. So if you keep this document or create another document and you maintain it perfectly updated, you can do this. You can do here, clear. And you just resetted all the context. So Cloud now will have his documents to get up to speed, and we'll start a new clean conversation. So I don't know if it's a silly example, right? But it's explore, planning, executing, and preserving, and cleaning. This is the way I work in my professional day-to-day work, basically. And my advice, just to end, as I said, those are links, by the way, to very interesting pieces of documentation. Plan deeply, execute in small, focused batches, treat the model as your teammate, as a person. For communication, if you communicate well as a human, you will communicate well with a model, right? Think of AI as a junior dev on steroids. It needs some assistance, but it knows the API like the palm of his hand. Use AI to get the gist of any code base in minutes. I use this every time. If I have to do an onboarding or I have a legacy code that I don't understand, I just ask and puts me in the right direction. Leverage images, as you saw, links and structured documents, everything to complete the context, to foster adherence. And delegate the boring, double down on what makes you thrive. This is about my answer before, no? And invest or use AI to invest in what can be replaced or easily replaced, that is your creativity. And I finish, guys. I'm sorry for taking so long. Sorry for the next speaker. But yeah, I believe that I hope this is helpful and useful for you. I don't know if someone has any question.
Well, at least we don't have any in the chat, and we really have to move to our last but not least speaker. So thanks you, Juan. That was really amazing speech about the AI, and I think it can be extended even more. Discussing that can cost some time, right? So maybe the next time, some of the next calls, you'll join us again, and we'll more deeply discuss those things.
Thanks.
So thank you. Okay. Okay, last but not least speaker for today with more technical and practical stuff, hopefully with no AI included. It's Andrii Bohdanov. Hello, Andrii. So Andrii is principal front-end engineer at VF. He's corporate chaos tamer, performance investigator, CSS annihilator in a good way of saying that. And also in some meantime, he's guitar riff explorer. So passing mic to you, Andrii.
Yeah, hi guys. Nice to be here today. My talk will be a bit more primitive than the one before. I won't ask you to, leave your family and go to the AI temple to all in. Sorry for the fun, but just needed to make this joke. But yeah, we will be talking today about the Storybook and generally about organizing your design system. Let me share my screen. So hopefully you see it. Let me just move this to the side. I'm just going ahead of me. Let's switch to the presentation. So yeah, we will be talking about how to use a Storybook inside Nuxt, right? And both really great projects. And unfortunately, they don't have so much attention. But I think that will be changing, and my talk is dedicated directly to this, right? So I want to kind of popularize this connection in general. Do you see my screen well, by the way?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, so just historically, let's start from why you even need Storybook, right? So I believe most of you, and again, react in the chat if you used it before, but probably you did, right? And but just for those who never heard about Storybook and never used it before, let's go through these really quick points of what it allows you to do. First of all, it's what maybe the fundamental part of it is that it allows you to build components in isolation, right? And today we'll be talking about the front end, of course. I selected this background for Legos not fully intentionally, right? Because I really believe that the front end should represent Legos, right? That you can assemble together, and Storybook is a perfect place, perfect environment where you can actually make it happen. Right? You can actually take every single piece of your application and test it in isolation, and we will look at exactly how you can do it and what are the benefits. It's also live playground, right? So you're not building some kind of detached or static versions of your components. It's a direct linkage, direct representation of what's actually happening inside of your front end, right? It's actually a source of documentation. I personally believe that if you write comments in the code base just for the sake of comments, you should stop, right? So documentation should be visual. It should actually be connected to the functional aspects of your application, and the Storybook is probably the best place for that, because it simply showcases your component from all sorts of angles, right? And again, I will show it in the bit as well. Today we will go over a case study of how we use Storybook in our company, in the company that I work in, right? And again, I want to really apologize for a brief explanation about all those topics, because the overall connection and what you can do in Storybook is huge, right? It's a really advanced framework. I probably won't be able to cover everything today. My goal today is to just create this overview of what's possible, how you can get started. But hopefully I will be able to get into more details in the future talks on this topic, right? So stay tuned. But yeah, I just want to kind of say this because I really feel sometimes that we are on such a short meetups, we get into the situation where the presenter says here you draw the circle and here you draws the oval, right? In this kind of a really short, short period of time, right? But I hope that this won't be the case today, but just so you know. So again, this is Storybook by itself is a visual testing tool, right? So not only it allows you to integrate with things like Playwright or Cypress, it also allows you to integrate with Pragmatic, which is an amazing system for visual testing, automated visual testing that right now I'm personally experimenting with, and hopefully we'll be using in our company in the future. And it probably deserves a separate talk by itself, right? I recommend you visiting the website, but generally we won't be covering it today. We will go into more basic stuff. It also provides a central point of collaboration. And I like this about Storybook the most, is that it's not only for developers, although like many people think that you just use it in a development environment. In reality, it's much more than that, right? It's a central point where you can connect to Figma, you can connect to your QA requirements, business analyst requirements. It's a source where the product owners even can check how your application is working, right? So it's really approachable, right? You don't need to be technical to benefit from Storybook by itself. It's also scalable, right? So I will, as I said, like I will show you the example of how we use Storybook. Right now we have around 168 stories in Storybook, and that's actually not even scratching the surface of the project, right? So ideally we should have much more stuff. We are working on it, but the point is that you can start really small and then grow as you go, right? And I will also go through my personal recommendation on the workflow, like how we can actually organize this. It's easily shareable, like you can just upload it to any endpoint. It's like a separate small website that you can access from anywhere. And that's actually makes this collaboration much easier. And it's also really predictable and stable. Today I won't be able to go into details on how you can actually mock scenes in Storybook. It deserves its own overview and implementation. I'm using like mock service workup for this, but the main point that you need to understand is that maybe one of the most beneficial points of Storybook is that it allows you to mock every single API, every single dependency that your component might have. So imagine you are doing some requests to, like outer API. You have some GraphQL layer. You have some third party. You can mock all of this, and that will mean that your component gets fully bulletproof from breakage, right? Something that we don't get in the real application. Just today, I was making changes in the checkout flow, and we have the confirm order page. It actually disappears once you made an order, right? If you don't have this page in isolation, even making changes to it becomes really a pain, right? You always need to make a new order. You need to provide some more data. You need to kind of do millions of things to support the actual preview of this page. Why not make it in Storybook? Right? In Storybook, you can actually make mocks for every single order that you have, and you can connect it and create separate states of every component. And this will always work, right? That means that you can send this into visual testing system, or that you build yourself, or you use the service like Pragmatic, and it will always give you predictable, stable results, because data never changes, right? It's really important to mock the dependencies, both in unit testing, but as well as in Storybook as well, right? Now let's talk about the Nuxt and its requirements to Storybook, right? Because Nuxt by itself is complex environment, right? It provides a lot of features, a lot of kind of sugar on top of Vue.js, and all of this should be supported. And unfortunately, as we're talking right now, the Storybook isn't kind of officially supported. The Nuxt is not officially supported framework for Storybook. If you go to the Storybook website, you won't find Nuxt in the list of applications and frameworks that is supported. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work, and the work is going in that direction. I hope that in some months we will see the fully official support of Nuxt on the Storybook website. But even now, we can already start using it, right? and thanks to amazing work of multiple people who is supporting the package for Storybook and Nuxt integration, that I will actually be showing right now, we have this possibility. And this is not something trivial, right? If you think about it, Nuxt has these features like auto imports. It is able to import components, composable, source, utils, directives, like all this stuff should be somehow recognized by Storybook, right? Nuxt has layers. So if you didn't use layers before, I highly recommend you to start using them in Nuxt. In my application that I support right now, there is about 15 different layers. And that means that the components and the stories can actually be located in the different places, different layers, and they can override each other even, right? And that means that Storybook should somehow recognize aliases that Nuxt provides, for example, alias of components. Because if you use layers and you override a component, you really don't know where a component is located, right? It can be overridden on every layer of your application. That's why you should always import the component from components, the special generated file that Nuxt creates. Nuxt also has a system of plugins, has a system of modules, and all of that should still work, because sometimes, like more than we ever want, our components might rely on some plugin behavior, right? For example, you can have like a separate plugin that injects some third party, or a plugin that allows you to detect screen resolution, right? And this is all should still work in the components, because you want to place not only the simple components in Storybook that doesn't have dependencies, but also components that really complex, that make call to third-party APIs, that do some really complex stuff, right? That's the goal, to literally place every part of the application first in Storybook before it goes to production. Now let's get started, right? So starting the Storybook Nuxt integration is seemingly easy, right? So you just create a new Nuxt project, you install Nuxt Storybook package with this command, right? It's a module, and Nuxt Storybook conveniently provides this CLI command that automatically writes to your files. I already did that, so let me just go to the project, right? And we'll just go through those steps. Sorry if I'll need to rush, but I just want to make it really quick. So this is our initial commit, right? So what I did is that I just initiated Nuxt project. So we'll be using today like really latest Nuxt 4.1.1 that was released a couple of days ago, just to demonstrate you the latest possibilities. Then we add in the Storybook module, right? So what it does is this second command here. It just creates new content inside of the Nuxt config, which is modules, right? So it installs these modules into your Nuxt config, and it adds specific packages, right? Such as Nuxt Storybook and Storybook package. As you can see right now, the version that module injects is kept, right? So this is not the latest version of Storybook. I think that in the future releases, we will get the possibility to just use the latest version transparently, right? So the plugin itself or the library of Nuxt Storybook wouldn't kind of limit the version to this tilde version. But for now, it's like this, just like a safe version. You can actually install manually the latest version. It won't break the experience. It will just generate some warnings for you, right? But Nuxt is the latest version here. Something that you will need to add yourself is adding this Storybook and Storybook build commands, which actually allows you to execute those through the command line, right? As any other npm script. So I can just type PNP. I will be using PNPM Storybook, right? And you can just, because of this command, you can run the Storybook, right? And by default, you don't need to specify the port. Storybook will just select the port by itself, right? As you can see here, you can specify the port with special configuration and many other options, as you can see here, right? So this is the third step. You can just add this configuration into the Nuxt config yourself, right? So you can just create a special object called Storybook. You can also specify this, some of this configuration through the CLI itself, right? So if you go to the scripts here, for example, you can specify port directly in here, right? For now, I'll just show you how to do it here. Right, so if I'll restart now, yeah, it didn't pick up. Yeah, nice demo effect. So let me just specify it then through this, right? Maybe it should be port, like so. Yeah, it's not available because something else is running on that port. Let me just quickly close that. We'll just close other unrelated stuff. And run it again. And now we can see we're running on port 6006, right? So let's move on, right? So through our history of changes. And again, like, sorry for not doing it all manually. I just wanted to save time. You have to really be quick. Next point that you really need to do in order for Storybook to even start is to add the .storybook folder. Right? As you can see here, I've added this folder, and I created this main.ts file. So main.ts file will show you and allow you to configure Storybook add-ons and all of the basic configurations. Without it, the Storybook won't run because it won't know where your story is allocated and all of the other really critical configurations. So you can see here, this is the minimal config that you can specify. It's not exhaustive, right? You still can specify much more stuff in here, but today we are going a really light and basic mode. So you can see that regarding the Storybook config type, and again, you can see that I used TypeScript everywhere. I don't use JavaScript for setting up. It just makes my life much easier because now I know the whole set of properties that can be specified here, right? Which is really convenient. We specify first we specify the static dir. It's the directory that will be recognized by Storybook as a source of static assets that will be accessible. As you can see here, I have this public folder that contains an image, and I will talk about this, why I need this image a bit later. I specify stories, where my stories can be located. I use this kind of a really basic convention of just looking into the components and finding the stories.ts file, right? In case I will have multiple stories. And this is what I usually do. We also can preset up some specific add-ons. And again, like, one of the most powerful feature and what separates Storybook from competitors is its diverse infrastructure of add-ons. Right, you can go to the Storybook website, and you can check the add-ons here because there is like a lot of them. Some of them are outdated, some of them are really great, right? And there is lots of different integrations that you can specify here. We are using right now only the most basic one, which is add-on docs and add-on A18Y, right, which is accessibility add-on. And I will show you like what it creates on top. We also need to specify the framework that we'll be using, and this is basically coming from the module itself. It's Storybook Vue Nuxt. That should be specified. Here you can provide some options. For now, it might be omitted. There is no need to specify it. And that's it, right? So this is like a minimal configuration that you need to specify. to run the storybook. I also recommend placing the TS config inside of the storybook folder in order to kind of extend from the Nuxt config, as you can see here, because Storybook sometimes can have a bit different configuration for TypeScript, and this is your entry point. So here you can just extend basic Nuxt TS config, which is generated inside of the Nuxt folder here, right? And you can just basically write your own rules if you want for specific to Storybook. For example, like aliases that you might have in your application. Now let's return back to our deck. Let's move on to something that we already did, right? We provided the main.ts file. Next, we will talk about how you can theme the storybook itself, right? As you can see, if you look here, I actually have this kind of unconventional or like a non-default header, right? Here, I just wanted to show you that you're not only able to place stories inside of the storybook here, right? You can actually modify the storybook itself. Like the whole frame of the storybook is editable, right? So you can place your own company logo. You can do crazy stuff. Actually, I wouldn't say that it's the most convenient experience to target those elements, but it's possible, right? And let's look at how it actually can be done. It's like a really nice touch, and add this kind of a professional attitude to your design system, and you demonstrate it to multiple stakeholders, right? You can just say that this is our branded version of Storybook. It's not some default stuff. And by doing this, you can just create this manager.ts file that allows you to specify the theme, basically, right? Configure the theme. You can specify the brand title that goes here. It's specified like this. You can specify brand image, right? And what's even cooler is that, and again, like this is why we specified the static directory, right? Because now this path is recognized, because Storybook will be looking into this public folder to find it, right? And then we just set it to add-ons, set config, and we pass the theme, right? Easy as that. Moreover, we can specify this manager.head.html file that allows us to specify the style that will be applied to this frame, right? So actually, through this file, I can actually target multiple elements. As you can see here, I'm using this subtle pattern to just get this kind of a starry background to just demonstrate you that you can modify this whole theme. And here you can see that we automatically have the dark Storybook version. By default, it changes based on your device setting, but you can actually force it. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm specifying the base dark theme, right? So not many people realize that this is possible, but yeah, you can actually modify the Storybook frame. You can just change the colors of how everything is displayed here. You can replace these icons. Basically, all of this is accessible. Let me quickly check the chat. Yeah, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Right. So let's move on. Let's go to our steps. What you can do. So basically, this is like the last step that you need to configure to really start developing with Storybook. Right. Here I created like my first component, which is like a really simple button. And like this is like nothing. It's just a regular button with a slot that supports some content. And in order to create a story for it, again, like I'm just creating a story inside of the button folder. That's how I like to organize my code base. That everything will be in the same folder, right? So here I have the app folder button that will generate me app button component. And here I have stories, and everything I place here with .stories will be recognized because I specified this button previously. It's not something that you need to follow, but that's just my way of doing things. I like to call the main story demo, just because it demonstrates the functional aspects of component, right? It allows you to set controls and see how those controls affect the component. Another convention that I really like to use is static stories. And those static stories, I will show a bit later how they can be organized. They allow you to really demonstrate kind of the snapshot or the predefined state of your component so that it could be consumed by visual testing system or just allow you to not mess with the controls so much, because sometimes you can have like hundreds of controls on the component and you want to see that it's just a final combination of those things together. But I will show you the actual showcase in a bit. So as you can see here, what we need to do is to define this export to default. Sorry, my notification. I don't know why it's appearing. I need to put it on pause. Right, so here we specify the title and the component. So we kind of tied together the title of the story, how it will be appearing here in, let me just switch, how it will appear in this view, right? So right now we have these components, and that's actually connected to this label, right? So, and again, like I can organize it however I want. Sometimes people like to follow this system of atoms, molecules, organisms in the atomic design. I like to keep it simple. You can just set components and foundations, right? So foundations is something like that demonstrates your basic design system tokens that are going before the components, right? But it's up to you, right? So whatever you will specify here, and let me just modify it to show you that it's actually connected. And maybe let me restart and see if I'm just still running on port localhost 6000 over here. So you see now it's updated. So whatever I specify here, I can have like a multiple nested groups. It will all be reflected. So now, of course, it broke because now my URL is incorrect. Let me just restart it. Right, so now I have everything working back. And moving forward, so I provided a title, I specified the component that I will be showcasing. I typed my object to meta. This is a type from Storybook itself. You can import it from Storybook Views V directly, or you can import it from the core package of that's been installed of Nuxt.js Storybook, because it's just like passing through, right? So it can be imported like this as well. This way, it might even be better and a bit cleaner, because you import directly from packages that you directly installed, right? So feel free to do this as well. We can also import special scene action, and I will show you exactly what it does in a bit, right? But for now, let's just move on. Then we create our first story, right? And here I just specify the name of the story, and again, this name also connected to the name that is displayed here, right? So if I modify it and call it something else, like showcase, for example, it's updated. Now, of course, it's broken because I need to, again, change the URL, because Storybook also always tries to kind of include every single selection in the URL, right? And this is something that you need to be aware of. Right, so here you can actually call to your stories and components however you want. Then you specify the arguments. This is something that will be connected to your component and to your controls as well. So you can see below we have controls, and it allows us to modify what we passed. So right now we have disabled state and slots, right? And if I'll type something here, you'll see that I instantly get update on my data. And the same for disabled, although like right now I didn't, so you see like the button becomes disabled, right? And why is it happening? Is because I bound my arguments to the component, right? And disabled is just the default attribute of the button. That's why I don't even need to specify it here. So this is really like convenient to, and that's what I'm saying is that the Storybook actually modifying your component directly, right? It affects its direct behaviors by kind of changing its state. And this is really, really useful, because it's not something that is separate from the main application. It's just something that you do to the live component, right? So first we specify the args, then we specify arg types. So this allows us to specify how exactly our properties will be displayed, right? So you can see by default we got the control that is of type text, and that's exactly why it's specified like this. You can have different types of those controls. As you can see here, the disabled is actually specified as a toggle, right? Because I said it's like that, right? So like the category, I just said that the category props, the type was inferred by the actual value, right? Because by default it's a false value, and that's how it knew that the type is actually a toggle, right? But you can affect it. You can just have drop downs. You can have objects. You can have color pickers. All sorts of different types that you can specify here, and really allow to kind of select, for example, variant or the size of your button and everything else. Quickly go into this section of render. This is basically you just specify components. Like in options API, you can specify the setup function. You can do any specific pre-compilations or computed or anything that you would usually do inside of Vue here, right? Just fully open to modification. The methods is again another Vue concept that allows you to specify the methods that will be executed on your button. And as you can see here, even though I can use kind of React-based syntax of Storybook itself, that many people are actually using, I try to always just use Vue template, right? I'm not kind of mixing those two, because the Vue by itself inherently is much easier to percept, right? You just specify it and you see the result. So I just bound my click to this button, and I actually call in the action. So let's look at what is the action and why it's useful in Storybook. So every time I click on this button, you see that the actions appear. So Storybook can show events that your component propagates. So for example, if you click the button, if you emit some specific event or do anything related to this bubbling of the events, you can see it here, right? You can investigate how exactly it's happening, when the event is happening. So it can be really, really useful for debugging and understanding how the component not only visually displayed, but how it functions, right? Now let's go to understanding why we installed those plugins and what they provide. So right now you can see that we have two different tabs. Let's maybe start from accessibility, which is a really, really useful thing. That's something that can also be connected to Pragmatic, for example, for getting the general report on accessibility. As you can see right now, it shows us violations. So I passed 4 kind of accessibility scores on color contrast, right? So let's for example try to make our text in the button more grayish. Let's just add the style for now. I didn't want to use any CSS frameworks, just to really demonstrate you the basic stuff, and set it to something like CCC, right? So to update. Yeah, you see, sometimes it still kind of have some issues on HMR, right? So let me just restart the project. It's still rough on the edges, the integration itself. And maybe in the next sessions, I will really go through troubleshooting of what you can do to kind of mitigate those issues of the package itself while they're being fixed. But you can see now my button become really grayish, right? The text in the button. And you see instantly I got the notification on accessibility. I broke the score, right? Now color contrast is no longer matching. And Storybook conveniently show me exactly where this is happening. I can jump to an element. And again, imagine that you have not just a simple button that is quite understandable, right? Where everything is located. But imagine you have a component of a huge scope that you need to focus on. You need to really understand at which exact node the issue is happening. And that's exactly what is being shown here. So Storybook is using AX tools. If you ever use them for accessibility, you probably know. I'm talking about AX. Right, there is an extension for this plugin, and you can actually check it out, right? So, for example, these AX tools, you can install and you can just all this dependency, and you can use it to monitor the accessibility of your components. So Storybook use that under the hood. It actually runs a lot of pretty useful monitorings. Of course, like it's not it doesn't make the exhaustive list of checks on accessibility. You still need to check your components with real screen readers and many other things, right? That really can provide you with the on-hand experience of using the component, but Storybook allows you to cover the basics of accessibility really, really smoothly. So let me just remove this mutation of color. You can see, again, I need to restart. I actually have a fix for that. I just intentionally didn't want to kind of overcomplicate this today, but it's actually fixable, right? You can just at least work around this issue. There is an open ticket for the HMR library load that's right now being processed, but yeah, hopefully in several weeks or this month, it will be fixed. So interactions is another thing that's related to testing. Right, so right now, like again, it probably deserves like a separate video by itself because it allows you to record the specific interactions that you might have with the component and then play it through. Right, so for example, you can open drop-downs, you can just interact with your elements and do it all in the automated way. Right, so you can open the story, you can play the scenario, and if you used Cypress, for example, before, it's somewhat similar, right? It also allows you to kind of create interactions with your component. But again, like just to be short on time, let's focus on the actual case study, right? So here I showed you like a really, really basic Storybook setup. Now let's switch to more sophisticated, of course, not ideal, but something that we use in our company. So here I want to kind of demonstrate you how we, again, like we are working on supporting website for apparel brands such as North Face, Timberland, Vans, and we have like design system for every of those brands. They're all built from the same code base. So as you can see here, we have foundations where we demonstrate the colors that we use inside of the system. Right, we have a grid system, spacing. Again, forgive this kind of a 404, it's just the intermittent issue of the integration that we are now fixing, more related to MSW. But yeah, like here we can just specify the basic design tokens and explain in the documentation. So you can see that in controls, you can also provide it just picks up your commands, right, from the properties. So if you comment your properties, Storybook will pick it up and highlight them here. Right, so it's like an instant documentation on every kind of setting, even if you done it artificially. Right. Going to the icons, so here you can see that we showcased all the icons that we are using, and it's all still kind of a static stories. As you can see, you can organize it however you want. The main goal here is to just demonstrate effectively how your components and design system is structured to everyone. You have typography, font sizes. Going to the components, I will show you like how we organize the demo and the static stories. So for example, here we have a demo story, and you can see the controls here are a bit more larger, right? So we still have this kind of editable text. We can specify this disabled behavior, loading state. We can specify different sizes of the component, right? And what's important is that the component should be always used within its own contract, right? It shouldn't be mutated from the outside. We make sure that no one who is using the component is kind of adding something on top of it. they just use what's available. So if the component needs to be changed, then we just introduce some new prop of the component. We don't write something that breaks the component from the outside to achieve specific visual look or behavior. That's really important. That's why like this system is even exists, to give you an explanation of how this is structured, right? So along with the demo story, as I showed before, we also have this static story. As you can see here, we're actually showcasing all of the possible states of the button in all of the combinations, right? So here we show the hover state, we show the loading state, and so on, right? So now you can, like, if the button will be changed by someone, we will see it instantly, right? Because we see all of the states visually, and just by going here, we can see that something got broken. For example, like seamable buttons, if they will broke, we will see it instantly. Or here we can already see that something is not probably breaking the accessibility, right? As you can see here, we got color contrast issue, the one that I showed you before. If I focus on this element, instantly I can see where the issue is coming from, right? And I can fix it. And I see what exactly is extent that has been broken here. Going to something like more complex, we can have something like CMS-driven components, right? So we have like a lot of components that are actually driven by the CMS. So for example, here we have, this block below something, right? Or the actual empty states of the grid, right? And all of this is well connected to controls. So you can see controls can be really sophisticated, right? So we can have like a really even complex data here specified, and all of this data can be modified, right? If I modify the height, let's say that it's something like 550, and again, like I need to look at maybe let's just make these changes, right? So you can see we can change how the component is being displayed inside of the grid, outside of the grid, right? And here we have color pickers. So for example, we can specify different color for different elements. Let me maybe switch to something like image banner, right? And let's change the color. You can see right now we are on MD breakpoint. If I resize, the color will change to this one, right? So it's all dynamic. It's all allows us to modify. And again, excuse this ugly demo data with these ugly colors, but yeah, as I said, like it still requires a lot of improvements. But even in this form, it allows us to kind of understand how components function, right? So you can place skeletons in Storybook. You can place whole experiences like card flow. You can basically mock, as I said, every single aspect of your system. And yeah, the sky is the limit, basically, right? Because you can do a lot of different things in Storybook. For example, like these components, you can see it combines a lot of other components. So it's not only showcasing the simple component, it builds on top of the button component that we've seen before. If I click the button, it opens the model component that is coming from a plugin, global plugin of Nuxt. And yeah, it's fully interactive, right? So it allows me to see full interaction as I would on the real website, but in isolation and with isolated data, right? Which is like really, really crucial. So yeah, I guess I'm coming to my time frame. So do you have any questions, guys?
I mean, I already put some questions in the chat, so if you don't mind, you can read, but you already answered part of them.
Yeah, let me check. Yes, so you really need to try to put as much stuff in Storybook as you can. I will always recommend going from the smallest components to the larger ones, just because you will have like this predictable and structural approach. But no one stops you from placing whole pages inside Storybook, right? And I showed it actually, right? So we can have like a really complex combinations of components. Answering the question of what's not covered in Storybook, Storybook is not a tool for contract testing, right? So it's not something that will allow you to test out your APIs that's connected to the front end. Moreover, it will try to kind of always be detached from the APIs. So even though someone might think it's like a limitation, it's actually like a big benefit, right? Because for integration testing or for contract testing, you should always write something separate, right? So the API should be responsible for itself. Like every layer of your application should be responsible for itself in terms of testing. If we are testing UI, it should be detached from all the interference, all the outer things that may break, and that way we can always say for sure that the issue is located directly in the front-end layer. We shouldn't run around playing ping pong with our backend team and investigate where things are even broken, right? It's always obvious. Yeah. So regarding the end-to-end test, it's actually, as I said, like it's not so much of a responsibility of Storybook, right? So end-to-end test is much larger in scope, but you need to understand that the global pyramid of testing is always going up, right? In the end-to-end is always on top of that pyramid, right? So you don't need to have like thousands of end-to-end tests, but you need to have thousands of visual tests. You need to have thousands of unit tests. And when you have this type of scope, you will be able to really guarantee that your end-to-end tests are testing like this whole holistic behavior, right? They don't need to, because end-to-end tests, they don't provide this level of detail. They might say to you, like, something got broken, but what exactly got broken, right? To answer this question, you need to work with much more granular tools. And Storybook, especially combined with visual systems like Pragmatic, allows you to really get this quick feedback of when exactly your component got broken and what exact line of the code broke it, right? Yeah, exactly. So the Playwright or Cypress or Chromatic is basically a snapshot testing tools, right? So if I go to the Chromatic website, you'll see that, and I can just quickly show you how it might look, right? So this application allows to connect to your Storybook, and it allows you to run those automation tests for every single build, right? So when you see regression, you can instantly see what's got broken. So as you can see here, there is full comparison of, like what exact things got broken in specific builds and how you can actually fix it. Right? So you can see that this component got broken completely, right? And you will see exactly like what happened. It was removed. So you see exact lines that were modified that caused this type of visual change, right? So this is can be really, really powerful. And as I said, like today, I simply don't have time to go into every single detail, but just think about it as like a really like foundation and the common sense of your system. And the more complex system you develop, the more common sense you actually need. Right? Without it, some systems simply impossible to be supported.
Is there any alternatives for Storybook in scope if we are talking about Vue.js especially?
Yeah. I think that there are alternatives, but unfortunately there is not so many of them, and they're not so powerful. Right? Frankly speaking, I don't remember the actual name. I also tried the alternatives to Storybook, but it was quite a long time ago. I will need to see how they evolve. But in any way, Storybook right now seems like the most feature-rich environment, right? So as I said, it has a lot of integrations, a lot of third-party plugins that are being developed. Other companies are oriented on supporting it, like Chromatic, right? It just has this kind of a seamless integration. But of course, you can go with, like, if you don't need so much power, so you don't need so much functionality, you can go with the simpler solutions. So definitely there are some open source alternatives. And again, like Storybook also is open sourced. Only the Pragmatic is a paid one. But Storybook by itself is fully free and open source. You can use it in any project. And yeah, it might be a bit complex, but it's worth it.
Do you contribute to Storybook by yourself to speed up the process of adoption to to the Nuxt or Vue.js?
I tried because I don't have so much time. Unfortunately, like I don't commit code right now, but I'm trying to kind of at least log issues, log those, like participate in discussions, and just trying to also speed things up through integration with such companies as Pragmatic, because again, Pragmatic is like a sponsor of Storybook, and it allows to like when you pay money for using something on top of Storybook, it allows you to have like a better connection to the people who develop it. You basically kind of partially at least, I hope that partially it sponsors their work, right? Because Pragmatic is a sponsor of Storybook. So if you use their service, they connect you with people who develop Storybook as well. And this helps of resolving the issues. So yeah, but of course, if I would have more time, I really would like to invest more into fixing all those problems. And again, like by just even doing those talks, I can provide at least workarounds and solutions to the issues that exist right now, and that can be mitigated. So as I said, and this is like direct proof that this is possible, because it's something that we use in production, and we found ways to overcome all of the hurdles that exist in the for the module today. Although, like you still seen those glitches, so to say, right, during the presentation, but that's quite minor in my opinion. It's still really, really usable.
Yeah, I think in my past those basic stuff that's blocking you to just making stories and multiple problems, like problems with imports and something else, is something that just really blocked other people to try Storybook on their next projects.
So I hope in my next talk I will go through all of the kind of more advanced workarounds and like how you can use aliases, how you can fix the HMR issue, how you can just use this whole potential that Nuxt provides inside the Storybook. But today I try to kind of just spark the interest to this connection of frameworks.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Oh yeah, thank you, Andrii. That was nice one. I hope someone will definitely try Storybook, not only in the Nuxt projects, but maybe in some other languages, other frameworks as well.
Yeah, probably in other frameworks it will be a bit easier.
Yeah,
but
who knows? Who knows? Maybe we
really
will
like
get
Nuxt.
another speaker will talk about React or Angular in comparison with what we have in Vue.js right now.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, thanks. Thanks again. That was very informative and practical, Andrii. Okay, guys, I think we already over time a bit. In case if you have any other questions regarding the meetups, or if you want to be a participant and you want to be a speaker of our meetups, please feel free and drop the message on our email that we will share in the chat. And yeah, see you on the next one, number 14, in the next month. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.